Hi, welcome to the Supporting Values of Peer Staff video. In this session, we will cover the three main roles supervisors play as champions for the individual needs of their peer staff. Supervisors are in the best position to act as champions for the individual needs of their peer staff, the importance of their peer programs, and the values of peer support and recovery. In championing the values of their peer staff, supervisors play three main roles: educator, messenger, and advocate. Let's start with the educator role.
In non-peer organizations that contain a peer support program, there's usually a need for education about peer support for non-peer staff. While the state requires that certified peer specialists and their supervisors be trained about peer support, there is no such educational requirement for leaders of organizations seeking to adopt peer support, nor for staff who will need to interact with peer supporters as a part of their day-to-day work. While CPSs have the best knowledge on peer support, their supervisors are likely to have more opportunities to educate organizational leadership. Unless members of leadership are particularly proactive, most tend to not form regular relationships with those doing direct service. Supervisors may find themselves having to act as the spokesperson for the peer support program, as they are more likely to find themselves in the room with changemakers of their organization than their staff are. In order for the supervisor to act as an educator, they must first educate themselves on peer support. While supervisors receive initial training, this should be considered a starting point, not an end-all for learning about peer support. Whether by talking with peer supporters, observing CPSs in their work, reading educational material, or seeking out continuing education, supervisors should first bolster their own knowledge on peer support. By educating leaders and providing resources, supervisors can play a role in minimizing role confusion by outlining clearly what a CPS is, what their duties are, and what environments peers can thrive in. They can improve the culture of valuing by sharing the proven successes of peer support and how their integration can improve the organization's outcomes overall.
Now, let's learn about the messenger role.
Supervisors often find themselves as the in-between with their staff and upper management. CPSs communicating their needs of upper management and upper management communicating their expectations of CPSs usually go through the supervisor. The supervisor ends up needing to manage both up and down, the needs, concerns, and expectations of both parties, in addition to their own input. They streamline these different messages and manage the communication of both sides. In these communications, supervisors will also find it necessary to act as a translator of sorts. Recovery language may be unusual to upper management who are not familiar with the recovery model, and management often have their own jargon not used by CPSs. Upper management and CPSs also may not understand each other's processes, priorities, or goals. The direct service that peer supporters provide may be completely unknown to upper management, who are unlikely to have regular contact with their participant base. On the other hand, CPSs doing direct work are unlikely to have the macro perspective of management, who deal with funders, other programs, and overall organizational processes. These two parties, while working under the same organizational mission, will naturally have completely differing perspectives. The supervisor, who frequently interacts with both sides and is therefore able to understand both perspectives, will help each party better understand the other's viewpoints and contributions, leading to better cooperation and communication from all levels of the organization.
And finally, let's look at the advocate role. Perhaps the most impactful role that a supervisor can hold in terms of supporting the values of their peer staff is that of an advocate. Having access to spaces of leadership, holding influence within the organization, and utilizing opportunities to educate, they can act as a service provider for their peer support staff by advocating for their needs. Requiring some vulnerability and bravery of the supervisor's own position, they can use the language of upper management to persistently push for more integration of their peer force, better working conditions, and advocate for the successes of their staff. They can respectfully critique the use of stigmatizing language and challenge harmful myths perpetuated by leadership and staff about people in recovery. Peer supporters often make themselves vulnerable by acting as advocates, pushing against harmful workplace cultures and practices to benefit their programs and participants. Their efforts can be strengthened by the support and advocacy of their supervisors, who often have a seat at the decision-making table in a way that certified peer specialists don't. Being able to persistently advocate for their staff in the language of upper management will help supervisors ensure the needs of their staff and help push the organization towards a culture of valuing.